Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my journey to New Zealand. So I've always had a bit of the travel bug, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go on family vacations to different places when I was younger and experience tournaments all across the world for rugby. So I had talked about some of those places in my previous 27 fun facts videos, so if you want to see some of the places I've been to, go check it out. So one of my most memorable places I had been to was Fukuoka, Japan, and I absolutely loved it. The culture, the people, like everything was just incredible. And I got to meet a lot of people from different places. We had people from South Africa, Japan, China, Australia, and New Zealand. And the New Zealand women's, or the New Zealand girls team, the Hamilton High School girls, actually won the whole tournament. So I got to meet a lot of those girls, and it's pretty incredible because a lot of those girls now are playing for the New Zealand Blackburn Sevens team. So in my grad year, I also got to billet two Kiwi boys from a rugby team in Matamata, and they played against our high school boys team and our girls rugby team. All got to hang out together and have a really good time, and I got to learn a little bit more about New Zealand, which really spiked my interest in traveling there. So in our grad year, we all have our name written on this massive board, and we write our goal, basically what we wanted to accomplish or do after school. So I wrote on mine that I was going to get my personal training certificate and move across the world to New Zealand. It was so cool to actually be able to have accomplished those dreams, and I'll explain now how I got there. So I worked at my favorite restaurant that my dad and I used to always go and eat at. It had our favorite chicken wings. So this restaurant was called Lou's back in Abbotsford. While I was working there, I was trying to save up the money, and I was also going to school for personal training. So I'd drive about an hour and a half each morning during the week to school. I'd be there studying most of the day, and then I would drive to my best friend Chantal's house where her dad would let me crash on the couch just to kill some time before I went to training. So the training that I did with Zion, the Samoan strength coach, he is incredible. Go check him out on Instagram. He really made a massive difference for me to be able to get to New Zealand. He pushed me so hard, and it really helped me out in the end when I went over to New Zealand to experience just a whole nother world of rugby for me. And I am so thankful for Chantel's parents to have introduced me to him, because without him, I don't know how well I would have done when I came over to play rugby. So after I trained with him, we would have about an hour session, and then I would drive 45 minutes to my rugby training in White Rock. So I'd usually have a little bit more time to kill, so I'd have a nap in the back of my vehicle. I basically lived in that vehicle. It was the coolest thing. It's called a Honda Element. Looks like a little Lego car, but I absolutely loved it. It was perfect on gas, and it was like a modern day hippie van. It had like the suicide doors, and the seats laid flat, and I had like my blankets and basically a wardrobe in there. So I'd get really cozy, have a wee nap before rugby training, and one time I actually fell asleep and slept through half of my training before one of my teammates came knocking on the window. I was like, "Morgan, training's already started, you're halfway through." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I like jumped up really quick, went out there as fast as I could, but they learned very quickly for next time, if they didn't see me at the beginning of the training, to come check my vehicle where I was normally sleeping. And then I'd have another 45 minutes to get home, and that was basically like my day-to-day. So I'd rugby trainings twice a week, and I trained with Zion about twice a week as well. So it would alternate usually, and it was a lot, but it was so worth it. If I wouldn't have been that independent to get myself to all these places and like rely on myself, it would have been, I think, a lot harder to transition when I went over to New Zealand and had to only rely on myself. So while I was planning my trip to get to New Zealand, I didn't know whereabouts I wanted to go, what rugby clubs I should go to. I knew nothing. I just knew New Zealand was this amazing, beautiful place that had awesome people, and I wanted to go there. And of course, they had the best rugby in the world from everything that I saw. So of course, I wanted to go there and experience this. So basically, my best friend's family had family in Auckland. So I was originally going to go to Auckland, and that's where I was going to be based. I knew it was going to be pretty scary as it was a big city, but I was like, oh, I can't be like anything more than Vancouver. I wasn't a huge fan of living in a big city, but I just wanted to go experience the rugby. But then my coach for the under 18 Women's Rugby Academy asked me to go to UBC. He really wanted me to go there as his partner was coaching the UBC rugby team. But I told him that I, one, didn't really have the grades for UBC, and two, really wanted to move to New Zealand. And so he then said that he had these connections in New Zealand, and they happened to be Oamaru of all places. So I had no idea what this place was at the time. I was just like, cool, I'll look into it. He got me in touch with them, and they basically helped me sort out a visa, found me a job and accommodation, and paid for half my airfare. So I was like, cool, this is a done deal. I'm gonna go there. And I don't regret going there at all. Like, it's a really tiny place, but it couldn't have been more perfect for me to start out at because I didn't need a vehicle to get around. My rugby field was 10 minutes down the road, and my job was 10 minutes down the other way. So like, it was so easy to get places and to go visit friends and everything. And when I went there, it was like a family basically straight away, as I had my rugby team and I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. It was so good. So just to backtrack a bit, I was debating for a really long time whether to go to New Zealand to play rugby or go study at the University of Acadia in Nova Scotia, which is across Canada on the opposite side of where I live. And I really wanted to go. I was really debating it, and the biggest reason I had considered going there is because my best friend Chantel, that was where we were gonna go, and that was like our plan basically, to go there together. And this was before she passed away, and so that was like a huge dream of ours, and I wanted to do it for her. But after experiencing playing for the under 20 Canadian team, I was like, I want to go and get the best experience that I can for my rugby and really level up my skills so I can come back and I can play for the top women's rugby Canadian team. Which obviously did not happen because I ended up liking New Zealand too much. But anyways, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make her just as proud by going to New Zealand, and you know what, I can study later on. And that's what I did. So fast forward again, and I still remember the week leading up to me leaving for New Zealand. I was like so excited right up until that week before, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. I'm moving across the world by myself, no family. What am I doing? I was starting to panic at that point. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go do everything I want to do and see everyone and just experience this last week with everybody. So I got to see my cousins, my uncle, my grandparents, and we all went to the Kohala Provincial Park in Hope, and where we got to see the Othello, I think I said the right, Othello tunnels. The tunnels were closed, but it was still awesome. We had a wee adventure, went wandering, and it was so nice to just like have that time and soak it in with my family before saying goodbye. And then I went to Mount Baker, my favorite snowboarding mountain. It's just across the border from where we lived, and I went with my dad and my brother. My brother went down maybe twice and then decided he'd go sit inside, but my dad and I had a great time for the rest of the day, and it was really fun just to have that fun wee moment with him before we left. And then I went over to Victoria on Vancouver Island, where my best friend lived. This is the best friend that has family in Auckland, so I was hoping that she'd be able to come over someday and visit me, because I was going to miss her very, very much. And then I came home, I got my hair done. I think I put some like brown streaks or something in it. My mom used to put highlights in my hair, so I just wanted it to be able to like grow out to my natural like dirty blonde color. I also had macaroni and cheese as one of my last meals, Kraft dinner out of the box. It is like probably so bad for you. It is so bad for you. It's so good. I love that stuff. And then I packed that night with my best friend Sunny. She helped me pack. We goofed around majority of the time and she's like trying on my clothes. We were procrastinating like crazy, but we got the job done, or at least we thought we did. We had to also pack so that my skateboard could fit in my suitcase. I wanted a long board, but I got like a short long board so that I could fit perfectly like on an angle in my suitcase, which made it really heavy, but this just shows my priorities. Needed to bring my board. And actually, earlier that day, I played a rugby game. My dad was not keen on me playing at all. He was like, what if you get injured? Like, if you break something, you are not going to be able to get on your flight. And I was like, nah, I'll be fine, it's okay. So I played that game, and it was one of the funnest games I'd played yet because we were short a player, but we played anyways. They ended up coming later in the game. But for a while I was playing fullback and flanker, so I'd jump in the lineout and then I'd scoot back to playing fullback. And it was quite interesting and entertaining, but I really enjoyed it. So it was just a good fun game to experience my last time with my Bayside team, and I couldn't have asked for a better game or a better day, and I got player of the match that day. Probably because I was leaving, so but it was still great. I was happy to have that. And we also had a fundraiser that day where somebody was selling these jerseys, and it was jerseys from all these different places. And so I was having a look, and he was asking where I was going in New Zealand, and I said I was going to be just outside of Dunedin. And he's like, oh, so Otago region? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you need this jersey then. And I was like, okay. And he holds up this like old school Otago jersey, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. No idea who these people were, like I had no idea who the Otago team was, but I was like, sweet, if he says I need this, then cool, I'll grab it. So bought the jersey, and definitely happy I got it now knowing Otago, what it is, the teams, the Highlanders, the Otago team, and to have played for the Otago team now is really, really cool. So thank you to that guy for telling me I needed that jersey. So then the next day, on my way to the airport, this was the moment, this was the time I thought I had been waiting for, but now was like kind of dreading. And I was panicking so much. Like, I thought I was prepared, I had everything packed, but of course my brain was like spinning and really unsafe. So sorry, but I was in the back of the vehicle, the very, very back, unpacking and repacking my suitcase while my dad's driving on the highway, because I was like, I don't need this, no, I need this, what if it's too heavy, like what do I do? I was freaking out. So finally got it all sorted, and I think it ended up coming underweight from what I can remember. I think we all sorted it and got through everything. I finally got to the gate to go through customs. And that was the moment. This was the moment to say goodbye to my dad. And oh my gosh, I was like, I can do this. We're not gonna cry. We're gonna go right through and it's gonna be okay. It wasn't. As soon as like it was his face first, his face started like welling up, and I could see the tears just start to like form in his eyes, and I was like, okay, here we go, it's happening. And we both just started like bawling our eyes out, and I just like could not deal. Like, oh, even now I'm like, shah! So yeah, we got very emotional. It was a very, very sad goodbye. Also, I'd already said goodbye to my brother at home. He's a very unemotional person, but I was sad to say goodbye to him as well. So yeah, it was a very emotional time. I had a hat on to make sure nobody could see my eyes. I'm pretty sure everybody could see though. And when I turned around and said goodbye officially to my dad to walk through those gates, I like pulled my hat down as far as I could, and the lady like opens my passport. She's like, you're okay, sweetie, like you're gonna be just fine. I'm like, I know. I carried on. I was like trying so hard not to like keep crying, and you know what, this happens every time. I still see my dad like at least once a year, and every single time it doesn't get any easier, to be honest. But yeah, so that was my last moment. So if you're still interested, click the link below to hear all about my flights to New Zealand in part 2.